following program is to provide entertainment and information. It is not considered to be any legal or investment advice.
Good morning, appraisers. Let's talk some real estate. You're listening to the Voice of Appraisal, the #1 appraisal podcast in all of America that always brings you the latest news and information from the front lines of the real estate market. Anything from market conditions, appraisal regulations, cryptocurrencies, big bank news. Folks, you have a question, we have all of your answers. We are your one-stop source for all of your real estate appraisal information needs. If you want to be in the know, you have definitely tuned in to the right show. Kevin, how are you, my friend? How are you?
I am good to be back in the captain's seat.
This is going to be
ready to just blow some
This
minds.
is an explosive show. For all of you out there that are driving the car, this show is going to have a lot of charts and a lot of graphs.
You might want to pull over.
Pull over. Wait till you get back to the office because there's charts, there's graphs, there's pictures of wrecked cars, there's pictures of dead animals. There's going to be a lot of shit on this show, so you might want to pull over because I don't want you to take your eyes off the road. It's very important that you drive safely, okay? We got to get into this, Kevin. We got to get into this. This is our last show of our 10th year. We're going to be starting our 11th year next year. And we're going to have a massively explosive show today because Fannie and Freddie, and I don't know which one did it. I don't know which of the two did it, but one of the big ones, they put a freaking appraisal waiver in my backyard.
Oh.
They put an appraisal waiver in my backyard. They put it there in April of 2024. I knew it was there. I knew it was there, and I've been watching it. I've been watching how that appraisal waiver has created data cancer inside of this subdivision right in my backyard. And I'm telling you something right now, Kevin, it is messing up. It is messing up the data set like we have been saying for the longest period of time. Do you have the sound bites ready, Kevin?
Yes, I do.
Okay, pull up the sound bite. This is Phil Crawford at the American Enterprise Institute 2019 before the coronavirus. Play it.
Secondly, you're on fire with what Miss Molly said there. Her comp is not your comp. So in other words, when someone purchases a home, don't waive the appraisal. They could be paying too much, therefore it skews the entire data set. So remember, always have that appraisal done. It's very, very important. Okay? It's very important.
That was 2019 at American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. Kevin, go ahead and pull up our interview with Danielle DiMartino Booth from 2020.
On this show, we have talked time and time again about the dangers of these appraisal waivers. And I'll tell you something else. What really concerns me as a real estate appraiser is Fannie and Freddie, are you ready for it? They're doing property inspection waivers on purchase transactions, which I think is detrimental to consumer issues. Your thoughts on it?
That is problematic on a whole different level.
Did you know that? First of all, did you know that they're doing property inspection waivers, appraisal waivers on purchase transactions? Did you know that?
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
There you go. There's Danielle DiMartino Booth. That was a great interview, by the way. That was an awesome interview in 2020. So in 2019, we were shouting from the mountaintops, appraisal waivers suck. In 2020, we gave you a top-notch mind in the economic world, Danielle DiMartino Booth, on the show saying, okay, this is not good. Then, of course, in 2022, we released our new product line, our new merch line on the Voice of Appraisal podcast, the hashtag I Love Appraisal Waiver t-shirts and coffee mugs and bathrobes and everything else. And everyone in appraisal leadership was quiet. No one picked up on any of it. Crickets. They just sat around and they finally, 2 months ago, 5 years later, late to the party, the Appraisal Institute finally puts out a statement saying, we're against appraisal waivers. And the National Association of Realtors Valuation Committee finally put out a statement going, we're against appraisal waivers. Well, no shit. Where have you been for the last 5 years?
About time.
Kevin, it is absolutely unbelievable the amount of incompetence that the appraiser leadership has. And remember, the Appraisal Foundation, I don't know if you heard this or not, they just posted like out of nowhere. It was so weird. The Appraisal Foundation posted on their LinkedIn page just a reminder that they're not an appraiser advocacy group.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so they've never been an advocacy group. Their job is just to set the standards and write the standards. And I've gotten into arguments time and time again with people saying they're an advocacy group. All of a sudden, they come out and say, oh, by the way, we're not an advocacy group. We don't advocate for real estate appraisers because they know the shit's going to hit the fan and they don't want to be blamed for it. And
Not
that's
us,
it. That's
not
a
us,
little
not
CYA
it,
right
not
there, okay?
it, not it.
Yeah, not it at all. So Kelly David's making a very, very good decision there, if you ask me. So, yeah, so guys, bottom line is in 2025, I'm going to be very bold here. I'm just going to say, look, you know what? It's time for a complete, absolute overhaul of appraisal leadership in the country today. It's the bottom line. I flip houses, and sometimes a house needs to have repairs, and sometimes a house needs to be taken down to studs. And when I look at the appraisal leadership organizations, they all need to be taken down to studs and start all over again. There's no electrical service. The electrical's bad. I see no energy. I see no light bulbs going off at all. I know there's no electricity in those houses. I know the plumbing sucks because there's just all over the place. It is just so bad as far as what's going on with these leadership organizations. Now it's time. We've given you so many years of background on this to get ahead of this, to quit being reactionary but proactive, but you just haven't done it, and you've let a lot of people down, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to do as many shows because I've been busy with other things, but this is just getting absolutely ridiculous.
Let the newer generation in. Let's see what they can do.
Let the newer
see what
generation get in here with some new ideas, some new energy, because the older generation has just dropped the ball. It's as simple and easy as that. I know a lot of people are going to be really mad at me on this show. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I've been doing this for a decade. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. Okay, so now a couple things I want to go over. We're going to talk about these appraisal waivers because, like I said, Fannie and Freddie, one of them, has put a waiver in my backyard. They have caused a substantial amount of data cancer in one of my subdivisions right next to my house. And I'm going to show that to you in a series of graphs and charts and how this one sale, this one appraisal waiver sale can impact the neighborhood year over year quite dramatically. So as most of you know, Fannie and Freddie, they're going to want a new requirement from you in 2015, and that is that you're going to have to grid out and chart out your time adjustment. It's not a difficult thing to do, and I'm actually kind of happy that Fannie and Freddie is making this requirement because if you are forced to have the discipline to break down the time adjustments on a quarter-to-quarter basis, and that's what I would recommend, quarter-to-quarter, you may be able to sniff out the data cancer that's inside of some of these neighborhoods. I discovered this data cancer sale immediately because it's, like I said, it's in my backyard. But if you're in an area that you're not that familiar with, you can be able to find these cancerous waiver sales and find out what their impact is inside of these subdivisions. And one other thing, if you don't know how to chart these out, and this is really important, okay? If you don't know how to do it, you need to call up the Appraisal Institute, SRAs out there. Call the Appraisal Institute up. Call their leadership and say, listen, we need a 1 hour, 2 hour Excel refresher course because Excel is the language of business and you guys need to know how to use it. I use it every single day on every single thing I do. But if you don't know how to use it, you just need to call up AI. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're doing over there, but call them up and be like, hey, listen, guys, we need a 2 hour course. Show us how to create a data table. And then from that data table, show us how to create the applicable chart or the recommended chart that will go along with showing our time adjustment. I can show you mine. Mine's better. Mine's 100% better than the one that Fannie and Freddie put out. They put out this chart that was showing like the time adjustments on each comparable and stuff like
right.
It was shitty. I mean, it was just I don't know where that came from. I don't know who created that chart. That's not the chart that I would use in my appraisal reports, but get a nice data table together. If you're doing a market value with an effective date as of the day that you're out there, go back 6 quarters of history, extract the data. I would not extract the data using an app. I would do it myself because that's a more accurate, detailed picture. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to trust an app on some of this stuff. It will show you the way markets flow and definitely will show you if there's some anomalies out there. And I guarantee you those anomalies are the appraisal waivers, the purchase waivers that cause data cancer inside these subdivisions. So let's get into it. Let's get into the charts and let's show you how data cancer work. I'm going to do a little bit of background here. This is a residential subdivision. I'm not going to give the name of the subdivision for privacy concerns of the people that live there, but it's a very homogeneous subdivision. It's very homogeneous in housing stock. Okay, now a lot of these appraisal waivers that Fannie and Freddie are putting out are going to be in homogeneous housing stock subdivisions that we call them sometimes cookie cutters is what we call them. So the cookie cutter subdivisions is where you're going to find the appraisal waivers. I will be finishing this report at the end of December. I had a phenomenal a phenomenal sampling inside of the subdivision. So like I said, it's very, very homogeneous in housing stock. The lot sizes are very similar. These properties are your typical cookie cutter subdivision in the United States. So as we can see here, we're going to pull up the first chart. This is what's called the impact of purchase, appraisal, waiver, sales, and data cancer inside of my subdivision. And as you can see, we are looking at all of the sales that took place so far in 2024. Now, I've labeled each one of these sales. The first one, that little blue one there, is a $359,000 cash buyer sale, no appraisal performed with multiple offers, and they waived the home inspection. They waived the home inspection. So that brought $359,000. You take a look at that next sale next to it. That's that orange sale. That's a $300,000 Veterans Administration loan. It's a VA loan with no Tidewater. No Tidewater. That means that sale went through, no problem at all. The appraiser had no issue with it. The green sale that you see next is a $397,000 cash buyer, but that came from an informed investor buyer. Very informed. And then, as you can see here, that teal blue sale right there taking place in April of 30th of 2024, that is the $430,000 purchase waiver sale. That is the $430,000 purchase waiver sale. I sent this over to Joyce Potts to take a look at, and she looked at the chart and she said, well, that's when the Viagra kicked in. That's when the Viagra kicked in. I was like, okay, Joyce. Okay, but she's right. She's right. As you can see, we have a $359,000 freaked out buyer. Freaked out. Cash, multiple offers, no appraisal, no home inspection even. Just give me the damn house, right?
Just give here.
Give me the house. Then you got a VA loan appraisal. You have a VA loan transaction, no Tidewater. You have an informed buyer. And then all of a sudden you have this massive blowout purchase waiver sale. Now at first glance, you can obviously see that the appraisal waiver is pretty much the highest sale in the subdivision, period, to that point. But we can break it down a little deeper. And some appraisers are going to disagree with me on this point. When you deal with neighborhoods that have a homogeneous housing stock, a cookie cutter subdivision, you can use a per square foot basis to price property at. Per square foot analysis works very well in these type of neighborhoods. It doesn't work well in rural. It doesn't work well in other areas. But in cookie cutter subdivisions, per square foot will show you a lot of things. It'll indicate a lot of things. Now, let's go ahead and jump to this next chart here. This is the impact of appraisal waivers, data cancer, on a per square foot basis inside of this subdivision. And one other thing I wanted to say is that these sales that we're using are all very, very similar in condition. They're at the low C3 to the high C4 level. For those appraisers that you would understand what I'm talking about there, that's like a low C3, high C4. So we don't have any massive over improvements or anything like that going on. Very, very similar housing stock. So as you can see in this next chart, we're showing the sales and activity of this subdivision on a per square foot basis, not necessarily on a sales price basis, okay? And as you can see, the one that was the freak out was the cash buyer, no home inspection. That brought $184 a square foot. The VA sale that took place after it obviously mirrored that transaction. So see, that was a VA appraiser. That VA appraiser probably used that sale that took place before it as a primer comparable, and therefore it came in close to $184 a square foot. Now remember, the average square foot of this subdivision in 2023, last year, was $168 a square. So the cash buyer took the subdivision up 10% basically to $184 per square foot. All right. The VA appraiser comes in afterwards, appraises for $184. Then we have the informed cash buyer buying that property at $165 a square foot, which brings it more in line with the $168 a square foot average from 2023. All right. Then something happens. Then all of a sudden, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, I don't know which one did it, pops in the appraisal waiver. And juices the square footage inside of that subdivision up to $195.10. Do you see it right there?
Viagra.
There's the Viagra. That's right. This is a cookie cutter subdivision. That's a juiced sale. The Big Fanny is juicing its cookies. That's what's going on right now, Kevin. The Big Fanny is juicing the cookies. They have juiced those cookies up. They have gone from $168 on average in 2023 in this subdivision. And that's solid, by the way. That's solid and typical. They juiced that thing up to $195 a square foot right immediately afterwards. Right immediately after that big, huge juice, another sale took place. This was the top market sale per square footage. They went ahead and followed that trend up to $213 a square foot. $213 a square foot. And then, of course, as you can see here throughout the chart, the trend continued and stayed upward ever since the gigantic Fannie juicing. Do you see how it works? Do you see how one sale can create a trend? Do you see that? Let's take a look at this other chart. This is a year-over-year, 3-year impact on this subdivision in Cincinnati. 2002 to 2003, year-over-year change, 2.39%. I would say healthy. I would say healthy market. I would say typical appreciation. Then all of a sudden, from the end of 2023 to just 4 months into 2024, because of the appraisal waiver, year over year then goes up 14.39%. 14.39%. If you take a look at the increase from the last sale of the quarter of 2023 to that appraisal waiver, that's a 14.88% increase in value in those subdivisions. If you take a look at the top sale, the one that took place afterwards, the one that took place after the appraisal waiver, after the data cancer was implemented inside of the subdivision, that top sale showed an increase from the fourth quarter of 2023 of 23.93%. 23.93% in 4 months because Fannie issued an appraisal waiver. And how do I know it? How do I know it? Because I talked to each and every single one of these real estate agents in each and every single one of these transactions. And I talked to the real estate agent that was involved in that particular sale. I said to him, let me ask you a question. Was there an appraisal done? And he said, no, they got one of those new waivers. Isn't that great? They got one of those new waivers. And I was like, holy Then, just so you know, I got a copy of the settlement statement from that appraisal waiver sale. There's no appraisal fee on that settlement statement. There was a waiver performed. You see how it works? It's very easy to break it down inside of cookie cutter subdivisions because you can base things on a per square foot basis. Look at this. You go from $168 a square foot on average. I mean, that was the last sale that took place. And by the way, that was a conventionally financed sale in 2023. You juice that thing up 10% off a cash buyer that's freaking out and needs to have a house. Okay, I get it. I understand that. Maybe some appraiser would look at that and say there was so much duress there was so much duress, that maybe we wouldn't be using that sale as a comparable. Then a VA guy comes in right afterwards and says, okay, no Tidewater. That sounds great. I got my new comp. There we go. We got the informed cash buyer coming in at 165, more in line, and then bam, 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 bam. Appraisal waiver comes in, juices that market up. Now here's something else, Kevin. This concerns me a little bit. This sale for $195.10 a square foot, the one that we got the waiver. I'm trying to figure out how Fannie Mae's collateral underwriter system is working here. Because typically if you went to like a Zillow or a mass appraisal system that's used by maybe a county auditor to assess property taxes, which can jack up property taxes, by the way, if one of these appraisal waivers gets into a subdivision. If you look at their system, they may be able to pull the data off that cash buyer, no home inspection. They may be able to pull that data off that VA sale, and they may be able to pull the data off the informed cash buyer. But what we've been told time and time again is that Fannie and Freddie don't use public data sources. They use other appraisals, right? So their data sets other appraisal reports other than just these things. So if you take a look at that, that would mean that at the time that they issued this appraisal waiver at $195 a square foot, they probably didn't have these other three sales in their system. Because one's cash, the other's cash. That's not in their system. There's no appraisal there. This is a VA appraisal, so unless VA is sharing data with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which I don't think they are, they wouldn't have that. So they're data blind. They're data blind right here in these three. If your last sale in 2023 is $168 a sale, convention and financing, what would justify Fannie allowing for an increase to $195 a square? I mean, think about that for just a minute. That's 14%. Do they have that in their algorithm? That you're going to have a 14, almost 15% increase off of the most recent quote-unquote appraisal you've got in your system? I don't understand that. I just don't get that. I just don't get how that works inside of their system. The other thing is let's talk about this house just for a little bit here. Now, this is very, very important too. This is a $430,000 purchase waiver sale. Kevin, I did something that is kind of controversial. What I did was I performed an appraisal for myself an appraisal for myself on the purchase waiver sale transaction. I decided to go ahead and appraise that property, naming myself as the client and the intended user. It's very, very tricky to do that. I do it on several occasions throughout the year because I flip properties. So I always like to appraise properties for myself. I did it using standard 2-2B, which is a restricted appraisal report. Very, very important to do that too. I performed an appraisal, and in my analysis indicated that this sale probably was closer to a $390, maybe a $395 market value instead of this $430,000 sales price. So I know from the settlement statement that the people that bought this place put down a substantial down payment. I think it was like $130,000 down payment.
Jeez.
$130,000. Because they had the big down payment, and they probably had phenomenal credit. Fannie and Freddie, which one did it, issued this appraisal waiver and therefore skewed the entire data set inside the marketplace. When I talked to the real estate agent that was all excited about this scenario, about this appraisal waiver, they got an appraisal waiver. I asked them, do you know if they actually had an appraisal performed? Did they get that done? And his answer was, yeah. And I was like, okay, have a nice day. Have a nice day. So we're running into some problems here. Because if this appraisal waiver was given, which we know it was, did the agent that was so excited about the waiver, did they actually perform their fiduciary duty? And letting these two people know that before you go ahead and buy this house, you should have your own appraisal done just to make sure you're not overpaying. Because the argument can be made that if he didn't warn them or he didn't give them that information, they should have their own appraisal done, then he hasn't performed and fulfilled his fiduciary duties and responsibilities to his buyers. The buyer's agents are going to be in a lot of trouble in 2025 if they don't start taking their fiduciary duties really seriously. The other question is did they revise their contract in any way, shape, manner, or form? Was there a contingency that the property had to appraise at or above the sales contract price? I did not get a copy of the contract on this particular purchase waiver. But if there was a contingency, did they go in and did they change that contingency? Did they revise the sales contract, or was the sales contract left open and not fully executed? You see, if these two individuals right here, if they did overpay, which I believe they did by $30 to $35, maybe even $40,000, did they have any knowledge of it whatsoever? Did they know what was going on? Or was consumer protection just thrown out the door? People were jumping up and down, happy, 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 joy, joy, joy. I'm getting a commission. Everybody's all happy. And we don't really care about consumer protection. Are you advocating for your client or are you advocating for your commission? Where does your fiduciary go? This is going to be a big question that a lot of buyers agents are going to be asked in 2025. Our first guest of the 2025 shows will be someone who's going to break all this down more than what we will. So if you're a member of the National Association of Realtors Valuation Committee, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework, okay? This is your talking point in 2025. This is your talking point. This is agent liability, agent responsibility, agent and broker lawsuits that could come from not performing your fiduciary duties correctly and failing consumer protection. So that is your talking point for 2025. If you need help with that, take it, run, steal it. You can go with it. This whole situation with this waiver, this is just absolutely amazing. It's the top sale in the subdivision, absolutely top sale. And as you can see, on a per square foot basis, it does juice the trend. It juices the market activity upwards. And that's just a perfect example. That's just one sale in one cookie cutter subdivision. How many more in it? What if another appraisal waiver would have taken place right after that, Kevin? Another one, even a higher purchase price per square foot. It just would have kept it going and kept it going. I'm going to show you another chart here. This just keeps getting better because in April of 2024, the big Fannie, boy, they did some damage in my backyard, man. I mean, and I knew this whole thing took place, and I've just been sitting on it for the entire year because I wanted to get all the data in front of me. Check out this next chart. This chart shows that same activity in that subdivision in 2024. Now, if you take a look there, the fourth sale in is the $430,000 appraisal waiver sale. See it? See it? Now let's pull up the chart of the interest rates on a 30-year mortgage for 2024. Look at it. Look at it. The appraisal waiver took place at the height of the interest rate cycle in 2024.
You can see where the juice hit.
They gave an appraisal waiver when the mortgage interest rates were at their peak in 2024. Do you know what that means, Kevin? Do you know what that means? That means that in 2025, in the second quarter of 2025, this couple that put down a shitload of money on this house is going to try to refinance to a lower rate. They're going to try to refinance to a lower rate. And when they do that, they're probably going to have an appraisal done. And when that appraisal is done, what are they going to find out?
They're going to find out that house is worth a lot less
than what they paid for it. Oh, my God. I mean, it's perfect timing. It's perfect. They got a high interest rate. During 2024, they're going to refinance. This is their last Christmas that they're actually going to sleep soundly, Kevin. I mean, this is it. This is it. This is going to cause an argument. This is going to cause some distress inside of this property. They're going to be pissed. They're going to be pissed at each other. Maybe a divorce is going to come out of it. They're going to be pissed at their real estate agent for not having this done. They're going to say, wait a second. What? What are you talking about? It's only worth this much?
And the best part about this, Phil?
Yes.
Being the appraisers out there,
yes,
all you appraisers can go to people like this and say 3 words, I told you so.
Well, it's not even that. You're going to get a phone call. You're going to get a phone call from a lawyer one day saying, hey, listen, would you be interested in being an expert witness on this lawsuit against the real estate agent?
On this divorce case.
It's either yeah, exactly. I mean, they're going to make money off the divorce, or I'm going to have an attorney call me and say, we're going to sue this real estate agent. We're going to sue their broker for not performing their fiduciary duties. Since 2019, we have been warning about this stuff right here. We know it's out there. Michael Simmons. You guys know who Michael Simmons is? Here, give me that article really quick, Kevin. Michael Simmons, who's the co-president of Access AMC, just said in a recent Chrisman commentary newsletter, I mean, nails it. This is what Michael Simmons says. I don't know Michael at all. I know he's with an AMC, okay? He says here, when talking about appraisal waivers, in the case of a purchase, the contract price becomes the quote-unquote value. And that then becomes the new comparable for all subsequent transactions. He hits it. He knows it. He's been in this gig long enough. He understands how these trend lines work. He also says here, talking about, there not being an appraisal done. That's good news. The bad news is that the appraiser did not receive an appraisal assignment. And it's arguable whether the market, let alone a borrower, has received any accurate or fulsome information on that particular property's market value. In other words, he's bringing up the fact that this is a consumer protection issue. We all know this is happening. It's just right here. It's just right here in my backyard. Now, something else happened, Kevin. Something else happened in this subdivision that's going to further this couple with the appraisal waiver. Okay? This is going to get bad, all right? There is a large field behind this subdivision. A large field. And inside of this large field, there are a ton of deer. Now that field has been sold to a developer. A developer who's going to put in 160 new homes in our subdivisions price range. In our appraisal waiver subdivisions price range, there is a new subdivision coming in. Here's a picture of it right here. There it is, just so you know I'm not bullshitting you. And as far as the deer is concerned, here's a picture of my good friend's car after hitting a deer, because now they're all over the place. They're running all over the place in my backyard. And here's a picture of the 12-point buck she just took out as she hit it on the road.
Poor thing.
It's, you know what? But that's a good catch. That's a 12-point buck right there. Just so you guys know, I'm not full of shit. This is really happening. There is new construction competition that's going to invoke direct competition of the existing dwellings in our cookie cutter subdivision where our data cancer lies, where the appraisal waiver was. So what is going to be the trend line going into 2025 when you've got direct competition from 160 new homes next door with builder interest rate buy downs and all of the incentives and everything else? What do you think is going to happen in this neighborhood? What do you think is going to take place?
Prices are going to drop like a ball.
Drop a year. Take it back again. A year-over-year subdivision of 2.93. Then the waiver comes in and juices the freaking thing up to 14 or 15% in 1 year. Then new construction comes back in 2025, and things go maybe even lower. This policy, this purchase appraisal waiver policy, is not a victimless policy. It has impacts. It has impacts on consumers for consumer protection. It has massive impacts on real estate agents for their liability. And it has massive impacts on people borrowing money. How many cash out refinances took place after this waiver was done in this neighborhood?
Exactly.
I have no idea. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't even know why they would allow that juice of 14% to take place coming off the data that we had in 2023. I can't believe it.
And the worst part about it all that you've been talking about here, Phil, I would hate to be in that house when these people find out, for example, this $430,000 house that they bought last year is now only worth $3.25.
Yeah, I don't know. But think about it. Now you actually make a really good point there, because the down payment was $130,000, right? So $130,000 down payment. What if $40,000 of that was wasted?
Oh,
so that's $90,000, and then what if, because of the new construction competition coming in next door, what if they lose an additional $40,000 on top of that?
Wow.
Yeah, not the time to be doing value acceptance. Not the time to be doing 97% LTV value acceptance. This is not the time to be doing it. You have to make sure that the appraisal is done at the time of the purchase. I don't care what it is. It's a full-on real estate appraisal. Have you guys whiteboarded out what's going to happen over the next 5 years? 5 years ago, in 2019, I was accurate and I was right. I was telling people to stop doing these appraisal waivers. Now, 5 years from now, I think it's time for a little Philadamas. Have you whiteboarded out what's going to happen? President Donald J. Trump is going to build 4 million homes in this country in the next 4 years. He'll probably get 2.5 because he knows there's an undersupply, so he's going to build 2.5 million new homes. His dad made all of his money doing that. He's going to do it. It's going to get done. There's going to be new inventory on the market. Now, what else is going to happen in the next 4 years, 5 years? In 2030, it's going to start the largest wealth transfer in American history. $80 trillion worth of assets from the baby boom generation is going to transfer to 3 other additional generations, X, Millennial, and Z. After Z, there's nobody. There's nobody. I'll explain that in just a second. In the next 4 years, the baby boomers are going to start dying. They're aging in place. When they start passing away, they're going to put that inventory on the market. That's going to come in just right after we just built 2.5 million homes. So now we got 2.5 million homes coming on the market, being built, and now we're going to have a bunch of baby boomers dying. That's what's called the silver tsunami. When that happens, more and more inventory is going to come on the market. So picture yourself out that far. Have you done demographics yet? Anybody over at Fannie and Freddie done demographics yet? Please do. We are on the verge of an absolute population collapse. A population collapse that hasn't been seen in over 500, 700 years. If I go on to macrotrends.com, which is where I usually go to get my age demographic information, look at your birth rate. You can also go to Fred, too, if you want to. Federal Reserve keeps track of this. A woman in the United States of America reproduces 1.7 children. In Germany, 1.6. In Japan, 1.3. I've heard that been revised down to 0.9. Go in there. Look at Canada, 1.4. Look at Europe. Look at America. We're not having enough babies. President Clinton just said it recently on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris. He said it. He's out there. Oh, you guys aren't having enough babies. You guys aren't having enough babies out there. I tell you right now, if I was a little bit younger, man, I'd be out there having babies because you guys aren't having enough babies. You got to get out there. Damn, I wish I was a little bit younger. I'd have more babies. I'd be a baby making machine president. That's what I'd be doing. That's what Bill Clinton said. He was out there saying it because he knows the truth. He knows the fact that it's just a numbers game. And with the new Trump administration, well, what does immigration look like? That's the big question. Who's having babies in this world? If you look at our neighbors in the South, some of my family lives in Chile. Chile's not doing very good. It's 1.6. Brazil is 1.6. But Mexico, that's 2. Venezuela, 2.1. Peru, 2.1. Argentina, 2.2. Who is building a massive new port in Peru? China. Because China knows that's where the demographic population is going to increase. China's numbers are 1.7 reproduction rate. 1.7. It was that one-child policy. They only have 20 years to go to war. That's it. After that, their population falls off. So we need to look at all of these things. You're looking at a massive group of people dying. You're looking at a resurgence of new homes. Where do you think we're going to be in the next 5 years? We're going to be in complete, absolute market oversupply unless we get our population up. The number one thing that President Trump needs to do right now, more than anything else, is to get Americans having babies. Remember, I appraise funeral homes. Death is cash flow. I can graph this stuff out, no problem at all. Because if you know that may take place in the next 5 years, then is it a good time to be waiving appraisals at the height of this little market right now? Are you out there just screwing these consumers over left and right for the convenience? Or as what Dr. Calabria said in the most recent interview with Lori Noble and Josh Tucker on ARC, that this is just a friction point? You're going to let this friction point get in the way of people getting screwed over 5 years from now because our market's in natural oversupply? because of the political and aging forces that are in place. This is serious stuff. Let's talk about friction. Let's talk about frictional activity, not frictional vacancy, but frictional activity. Now, in 2025, we have two people that are going to be making a massive impact on government. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. We got to love Vivek. He's a St. X boy. You got to love Vivek, all right? Anybody from Cincinnati, you got to love him, all right? And JD lives here too, right?
JD Vance, yes.
He lives here too. Vivek's up in Columbus.
Correct.
I think he's up in New Albany. But he's a Cincy boy.
Correct.
He's a Cincy boy. So Vivek and Elon, with their Doge, is going to basically say, look, you know what? You guys got to come back to the office. You return to office right now. And not only that, but 78% of CEOs out there are saying, hey, we're going to RTO as well. And I'll tell you a little deep or dirty little secret that may even be actually a conspiracy is that a lot of the commercial paper was set to reset in 2025. They extended the reset to a higher interest rate in 2026. So what's it going to take? What's it going to take to get people to return to the office? Don't be surprised. Okay, this is a conspiracy theory, but don't be surprised in 2025 if we have a couple days where we have an internet down where you can't get into your bank account. You can't get into your insurance policy. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to find out after a couple days down that some guy in his dining room on his porn-filled PC downloaded a virus into the banking system or into the insurance system or whatever, and that was it. Everybody has to come back to work. That's it. You know, there's no more working at home. Your computers are too dirty. And not only that, if you work in financials, insurance, and real estate, then you have to go to an office, and the office has to have a special server to access the financial, insurance, and real estate world. That server is going to be called the C3PO server. I don't know, call it whatever you want to. C3PO server. The C3PO server is going to cost about $2 million. So if you work out of your home or in your basement and you work in financials, insurance, and real estate, you can't afford the $2 million. So you have to go rent from an office space that has the C3PO server in place, as most of the commercial office spaces throughout the country take on the capital expenditure of putting in the C3PO server. So your triple net lease will include the C3PO. It'll be C3PO server certified. So therefore, if you're an appraiser, you can go rent that space. This can happen. I mean, we saw it happen in the appraisal world. We saw it happen 2 Christmases ago when ACI software went down. ACI had this huge bug. It was a terrible bug, and it happened right at Christmas time. And all of your orders were canceled. Even if you were done, even if you were trying to deliver that appraisal report, the order was canceled and was sent to somebody else that had a la mode software because you had a dirty report. Your report's dirty. I can totally see the internet going down for a couple days in 2025. I can totally see the Congress taking advantage of it and saying, you know what? We've got a problem here. We can't have these people accessing all these records from their dining rooms. No. We need to mandate that people go back to the office. So we will create the Fire Protection Plan. The Fire Protection Plan. The Fire Protection Act of 2025. Financials, insurance, and real estate. If you work in an industry, you have to be connected into a C3PO server. The C3PO server will then be connected into a data center owned by Kevin O'Leary. It'll be the ultimate correction. A virus took all the sheep out of the barn, and a computer virus is going to take all the sheep and put them back into the barn. You see? And then what's going to happen? Well, people that moved from one part of the country to the other part of the country to work remotely are now going to have to move back again to the other part of the country. You're going to have this massive migration pattern start all over again where people are going to have to put their houses back on the market again. So think about this for just a minute. You've got demographics. You got the silver tsunami. You have President Trump building 2.5 million new homes, decreased immigration from countries that are reproducing populations, and you have employers saying, you got to come back to work. All of this is going to create friction. It's going to make market activity increase. There's going to be more transactions, more property for sale, more inventory. It's not the time to be doing value acceptance. It's not the time to be doing appraisal waivers because these consumers have no idea what's coming at them. So there it is, Kevin. There it is. Long show, but you know what? I had to do it. I had to break down the data cancer. A lot of people think this is clickbait with me. It's not clickbait. It's real. It's right here. It's right here. You can see it. You can see the purchase waiver sale. You can see how the trend line works. These purchase waivers are taking place in these cookie cutter subdivisions, and they're going to be juicing the cookies all day long.
We've shown you the charts.
Our job is done.
Phil's gone over everything. The thing is,
yes, Kevin.
You know, people have to disagree.
They're going to disagree with me. There's going to be guys over at the GSE going, well, Phil Crawford has no idea what he's talking about because that's not how our system works. Well, if your system doesn't work this way, then your system doesn't show how markets work. Your system is flawed. Then you take that system and you throw it in front of a capital markets guy any day of the week and twice on Sunday and ask him if he's going to buy your paper or not.
Ooh, snap.
Yo, there you go right there. Anybody that comes out and says, that's not how our system works. Remember, Fannie and Freddie, they want to have data analysts. They want appraisers to become data analysts. Well, guess what? The irony is once the appraiser becomes more and more of a data analyst, develops that discipline more and more, they're going to find the data cancer that Fannie and Freddie are putting into the system. Then one of these days, the data analyst guy is going to go to his boss and say, hey, listen, I found some data cancer in the system. I think we're kind of wrecking the area or we're increasing the trends. We may be juicing the cookies. And the boss will take a look at it and say, thanks a lot for bringing it to me. And he'll be fired in 48 hours. I mean, it's simple and easy as that. That's how it works. You have to delete the data cancer. You have to shut down the value acceptance program. And you have to make sure that your system is accurate. Fannie and Freddie have got a lot of macroeconomic data. But the data cancer, the damage to the consumer, to the agent, to the market itself, starts at the micro level. Something they can't see. They're data blind in that area. And the value acceptance program must come to an end in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last show for 2024. I want to thank you on behalf of myself and Kevin Kenny for being with us now for 10 years, a decade. We're going to be starting our 11th year next year. I love all of you. I thank you for your support. I thank you for your listenership. I thank you for your friendship, especially those of you that send me fabulous gifts and prizes. And if you send me fabulous gifts and prizes, I send you fabulous gifts and prizes back again. You guys have been a wonderful audience. We're going to bust it out in 2025. We have survived, Kevin. We have survived to 2025. It's going to be an exciting year. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show for this year. And I would like to thank you for listening as we've journeyed through the mysteries and complexities that are, in fact, the real estate appraisal business. I would like to thank my producer, Kevin Kenny, for being here, for his thoughtful insights and knowledge. God willing, we're going back very soon, continuing to report from the front lines of the real estate market. In the meantime, you kiss your spouse, you hug your children, and enjoy your day. Be safe in the field. You've been listening to Phil Crawford on Voice of Appraisal. We will talk next year.